The following episode of Bread for the People is brought to you by Side Hustle Bread, Long Island's handcrafted artisanal bread company. Side Hustle Bread is a family-run virtual bakery that's bringing the neighborhood feel back to Long Island, one loaf at a time. Head on over to sidehustlebread.com for more information, upcoming appearances, and merchandise. My name's Jim Serpico, and this... Should I start with my name? Or should I start with This Is Bread for the People? Do you like it like this? Welcome to Bread. Or do you like it like this? Welcome. Ready? Welcome to Bread for the People. Mine... Is there a script? Welcome to Bread for the People. I'm Jim Serpico. Today we have a very special Bread for the People. I'd like to have a conversation about the movie Rust and the fact that Alec Baldwin has been charged with the shooting of Halyna Hutchins on the film set of Rust. To have this discussion, I brought in a very special guest, my producing partner, Tom Sellitti. For those of you that don't know, Tom and I have been producing TV and film for over 25 years together. Tom has been on the set of over 200 episodes of television. We are both well-versed in what goes on with armorers and prop masters and everything that happens on a TV and film set. Tom, welcome to Bread for the People.
Hello, sir. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. Hopefully,
you're supposed to say it's an honor.
It's not an honor. It's just a pleasure. But in all seriousness, this is a pretty serious matter. In fact, I don't want to name the project, and I don't want to name the actor, but you and I were on a set where an accident did happen. It was not with a gun, but here's what I'd like to say. There was a scene where one of the actors had to swing an axe violently. And I will say that this actor had the presence of mind to stop everything before the camera started rolling. And in front of 80 people on set, call out to the prop master and say, hey, I want to make sure that this axe head, and he goes, I'm not fucking joking. I want to make sure that this axe head and this axe has been checked, and there's not going to be any problems here because I'm swinging this thing really fucking hard. And the prop master said, yes, of course I've checked it. That's my job. We're all good here. And then the AD yelled, action. And the actor went on with the scene and swung the shit out of the axe head. And the axe, and sure enough, the fucking blade flew off the handle. Now, in that case, no one got hurt. Thank God nobody got hurt. But in that case, I would say without a doubt, if something did happen, that actor would not be charged with anything. Because that actor did everything in their power to check. You know, he made an announcement. He asked the professionals around him. He made it clear that he was concerned about people's safety. Now, this situation seems very different. It seems very different because you're dealing with bullets. You're dealing with live rounds that shouldn't have been on the set. You're dealing with a lead actor who also happens to be a producer on the movie Rust. But I wanted to get your opinion and your take, Tom. Like, what you think normal protocol should be, and what do you think happened? And in the end, do you think Alec Baldwin should have been charged?
Well, I'm not an expert in involuntary manslaughter. I was surprised that he's being charged. And the only reason that I could even say I could possibly understand why he could be charged is because he is a producer on it. Now, what kind of producer is he? I don't know. Did he jump onto the project and as part of coming on, he got a producer credit, which we know sometimes happens? Was he involved with this project from the beginning? I don't know the answer to that. In terms of his responsibility to making sure as an actor that the materials that he's given are safe, see, I don't totally see that as his responsibility. I kind of feel like there's enough people and enough protocols in place that when somebody's given something by their employer or as part of their employment, that they are essentially following through with what their responsibilities are. So for him to, as an actor, to be given a weapon that has been told it's empty, even if it had something, it should never have a live round. There should never be a live round on a set. So there's a lot of protocols that fell apart, as far as I'm concerned, with the crew in terms of the armorer, the AD, who I know took a plea deal, so he wasn't charged, but he did take some sort of a plea deal.
No, he was charged,
but
he pled to get a lighter sentence. He pled guilty to get a lighter sentence, and he ratted out, you know, and he gave a lot of information, which led to Baldwin being charged.
And I'm not a huge Alec Baldwin fan in the sense of, you know, I love the guy more than anything. As you do, I've been around and I've heard things about him and whatever. I do enjoy his work. I don't know him as a person, but I don't know if I really agree with the fact that as an actor, he's responsible for this. Some actors go above and beyond. You know, you look at the things that, what?
I don't mean to stop you, but I want to use this as a segue to tell my Alec Baldwin story.
Okay. All right.
Alec Baldwin knows who I am, and here's how. Do you remember? I don't know if you remember this story.
I don't know. Maybe when it'll jar when you tell me.
So we were doing some project. I honestly don't remember what. I don't know if it was another season of Rescue Me. I don't know if it was the pilot Erase. And we were trying to get an AD named Rob Albertel to work on the project. But Rob Albertel was working on 30 Rock along with another producer named Jerry Kupfer that were all friends of ours. And really good friends. Like, we spent years together on several different projects. And I'm a practical joker, right? That's something I love to do. So when Rob couldn't do our project because he was doing 30 Rock, as a joke, I sent, I don't know if it was an intern or an assistant down to Chinatown to get a fish. It was like a 2-foot long striped bass or something. It was a whole fish. And I had them wrap it up in newspaper. And we put it in a FedEx box. And we had it delivered to the set of 30 Rock to Rob Albertel, the AD. As a joke, I'm telling you guys, this was not a message.
And an homage to The Godfather, by the way. It was also an homage to, Luca Brasi.
So the fish makes its way to set and gets to Rob. And it turns out that morning, there was a big brouhaha on the set of 30 Rock, and Baldwin was screaming at Rob. So a few hours later, when the fish arrived, they all assumed Baldwin sent the fish to Rob to send a message. And I don't know what broke it, or I don't know if we finally said, hey, did you guys get the fish? But somehow, by the end of the day, everyone found out it was me. And it was a big relief to find out that it wasn't Baldwin who sent Rob Albertel the fish. So that's my brush with Alec Baldwin.
Brush with him. That was funny, and you do seem to send practical jokes, especially with like large items, to 3-foot kielbasa's to people who are.
No, that was sent to me. That was a gift to me.
Oh, that's right. We sent it to you. That's right.
Yeah, that was a gift. I was having a colonoscopy, and the night before, you and a director named John Fortenberry.
Oh, that's right.
Sent a 3-foot kielbasa as a good luck present. I don't even know what that meant, but as soon as I became conscious, I ate it.
It's highbrow comedy right there.
All right,
well, getting back to what I was saying. So I do know that some actors are really, 100% fully on board. I mean, you see some of the things, if you watch any of the content that like Tom Cruise puts out for like his stunts. I mean, he's obviously in a class of his own when it comes to those sort of things, but he's almost leading the charge in terms of safety and how everything needs to be
Right.
done and the
But
protection.
he's okay when his best friend makes his wife disappear in Scientology, and she hasn't been heard of in 13 years. But on a movie set, he's really into safety.
Yes. So,
Fuck Tom
so
Cruise.
I don't know how far, if you bring an actor onto a show and it's not the star, it's a day player, or it's someone who's going to play, some thug in an alley. What is that guy's responsibility? Is his
Well,
responsibility to go through training, to be able to unload that gun, to be able to check the chamber and make sure something's not in the chamber? I feel like, um, that's asking a lot of someone who might be just coming onto a project for a day. If you
but
had, what if your landscaper, ends up killing someone on your property with, a piece of equipment that his boss is having him use, and it was faulty. Is that his responsibility, that the tool was not safe? And again, I'm not an expert in involuntary manslaughter. I know it's, through some negligence of your own. It's through the course of an accident, and it feels like it should be through your own negligence. So what is the actor's negligence in this role? What should he have done? That's the question that I have.
okay, I don't know that you could separate the fact that he was also a producer. Even if it was, you're alluding to the fact that he may have had a vanity credit. But I find it interesting that if that movie had won, or it's not even out, but if it wins the Academy Award, as a producer, Alec Baldwin goes up, and he's one of the guys that goes and accepts the award. Okay,
Yep.
so you
Yep.
can't have it both ways, right? He is a producer on that show. That movie notoriously was low budget and cutting corners. You and I have worked on a lot of low budget things. Okay.
Yep.
This project had people walk off the show. We've never had that. There was a bullet that went off, a live round went off on the set already once before this accident happened. People quit because they thought it was being run so poorly. He was well aware of how poorly it was being run. And I think as a producer, in his case, you don't get to choose whether or not it's a vanity credit or not.
I think
Again,
that's a fair point. So now, looking at it from a prosecutor standpoint, if that's the case, if they are charging him as a producer, so where in their charges are all the other people who would be standing on stage beside him accepting that Academy Award? Where are their charges? So that's why I have to come to the conclusion that they're charging him as an actor, as the person who fired the weapon.
that is a good point that I cannot argue. I can't argue that point.
So if you're charging, and I think the producers and the crew and the people who are providing the materials to the person, they are the ones who bear more responsibility than the person who's stepping in and saying, this is this is what I'm supposed to do. Okay, I'm supposed to drive this car. If you're driving the car and they give you a car and the gas pedal sticks, is that your fault? I don't know. But as a producer, I can see that. As an actor, which is where I'm getting the sense he's being charged from because he's the person who pulled the trigger, I don't totally understand it.
That's a good point. But you're now making me think of Contest Searchlight, a project that we produced over 20 years ago, and Jimmy Burke was behind the wheel. Now, was that a script note or was that real life? When he was behind the wheel of the car and he said, "I don't know how to drive."
That was a script that we wrote that.
Okay, we wrote that. That wasn't real life. Okay,
No.
so we were making. Yeah, that's funny.
We wrote it that he couldn't drive, and originally he was supposed to. By the way, if anybody has never seen Contest Searchlight, it's only 4 episodes, and you should look it up. It's a parody of Project Greenlight, and it's very close to reality. But the idea was that he was supposed to drive the car up and hit a fire hydrant,
Right.
and it was going to make a mess in the road, and we didn't have the money to make all those special effects happen. So
In the show, we didn't have the money.
So what we ended up doing was having him. No, I think in real life we didn't have the money because that's why we had a stunt guy. We had him hit a stunt guy instead, who was supposed to be Peter Gallagher.
Right.
It was cheaper to hit the stunt guy than it would be to hit a fire hydrant and make it gush like a geyser in the streets.
We only had one shot at it,
That's right.
and we got it.
So I think I think it's really strange.
Now remember,
you know,
Tom. Let's talk about this. It was rehearsal, so they're saying he pulled the trigger without a doubt. Oh, I don't know that this is fact. He's saying he didn't.
he probably did.
So in rehearsal, do you pull the trigger?
Well, listen, how in I feel like even in rehearsal, the same things that should be going on in terms of set protocol should be happening. The angles of where you're pointing, so you're truly not pointing at somebody. If you are pointing at somebody and you're being directed to point at somebody, anybody is behind a barrier of some sort that's going to protect them. And it doesn't seem like, at least in that moment, anything was being done to just make sure he was at an angle that wasn't going to hit somebody, that everybody wasn't behind any sort of protective barrier. So it definitely sounds like there was corners cut, or it was running real loose when it shouldn't have been. The fact that there were live rounds even on that set, and whatever, there were stories people were off with the weapons shooting out in the target practice at other times during the shoot.
Yeah, I mean, all accounts are that
And
this
and as a
armorer was
as a
not
producer,
qualified,
yeah,
and she kept the cart and the prop guns and the ammunition. It was a mess. There was a time during a lunch they were actually having live target practice for fun. This stuff can't go on a set. It can't go on a set. Baldwin must have known about that. But as you say, where are all the other producers? That's the one thing I don't really have a good answer for. So that's a valid point.
And aside from just bearing the responsibility of that day, they did hire all of these people who are the on the front line of making sure that there's safety. So there's plenty of people that can be watching out for this, in addition to the armorer or the first AD, the shop steward, whoever. There's people there that are there to make sure that everything is being done in accordance with keeping everybody safe, first and foremost.
Tell our listeners what a shop steward is.
He's the person who represents the rights of the crew, essentially. So he represents them for their union and whether they're being worked too hard, and making sure that they're getting the breaks that they should get and that they're being treated properly. And if anybody has a problem, he's like HR.
Right, but he's a crew member,
and is a crew member. Yes,
every set elects a shop steward.
He or she.
Right, every crew elects a shop steward. That's an interesting relationship too along the way. There's some shop stewards that, just like politics, get along with everybody from production to crew, and some are just completely adversarial, and it's a nightmare. Do you think it's possible they're going after Baldwin because he's the guy with the big pockets?
Well, that's kind of was my other, if they're not, because I don't believe they're going after him as a producer because of the points that we've already mentioned. So they're either going after him because he's an actor and he's the person who pulled the trigger, or because he's got the most visibility and the most money.
Do you think he's the most talented Baldwin?
I do, and it's funny because just yesterday, and I'm not a crazy Alec Baldwin fan, but I do love his work. And just yesterday, some site I saw had clips of him from Glengarry Glen Ross, which is my favorite.
Amazing movie.
And his speech in that. Also, his speech when he did the parody of Glengarry Glen Ross as at Santa's Workshop for SNL is also brilliant. When he confronts the cobblers instead of the closers, but he Also, I watched, what was the other movie where is it Malice? Was that the name of the movie? Where he has that speech about having a God complex. But he's an amazing actor, great actor. So I do think he's, I would say Daniel's probably a close second.
Not Steven?
No, actually, I think Billy is a close second.
Right. Steven and Daniel, they should be doing something else.
Unless they want to work with us.
Yeah, unless they get a project of ours greenlit, and we love them. I don't know, man. It's
I'm
it's
really curious to see how it goes, because, like I said, I was surprised that they pulled an actor in.
Someone's got to be accountable.
If it wasn't Alec Baldwin, if there was, someone else that was standing in that spot, whether it was a day player who was there just for that day to play a part, or who knows what it could be.
I think they wouldn't have been charged. I think that the fact that he's a producer, I do understand what you're saying, and the question then is, where are all the other producers in this?
Because there's a lot in between what Alec Baldwin would be doing as the producer on that. There's a production manager in there. There's a line producer. There's a lot of people, and then other executive producers and co-producers all the way up to him.
Right. Are you available to be called as a witness on behalf of Alec?
If he agrees to get something greenlit for me, absolutely. No,
this
I
is
wouldn't be so.
An interesting story. I thought it was timely, and I thought we could provide some insight. I know you certainly did. I don't think I provided anything other than telling our listeners that I sent a fish to the set of 30 Rock that was mistakenly thought to be sent by Alec Baldwin, and I love that's how the prank went wrong. I've had a lot of pranks go wrong. You were involved in one that really went wrong. We'll talk about that another time.
Oh, broke up a lot of friendships. It was
We're not going to talk about
real
that now.
Strong love that fell apart because of us.
Yeah,
those people would be together to this day if we didn't start meddling.
That's right.
It was funny as shit, though.
We can't talk about that. Tom, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Anytime. I'm always available.
All right, you'll be back. This episode of Bread for the People was brought to you by Side Hustle Bread, Long Island's handcrafted artisanal bread company. Side Hustle Bread is a family-run business that's bringing the neighborhood feel back to Long Island one loaf at a time. If you like what you're hearing, don't forget to head on over to iTunes and rate and review this episode. Reviewing and rating is the most effective way to help us grow our audience. This episode was produced by Milestone TV and Film. I'm your host, Jim Serpico. Blessed be the bread, everyone.